Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. I'm here with my friends Fariha, Tyler, and Harry, and we are here to talk about Sword number 4, out on the 17th of March, 2021. So in this discussion, we're going to spoil everything about this issue. We might talk about other X-Men books, other Marvel Universe books. Heck, we might even mention DC too. So this is spoilers territory that you're entering right now, and we want you to know that. For Sword number 4, we're going to go around and do our lightning round before we get into any in-depth themes and content. So just from the gut, Tyler, what were your feelings on Sword number 4?
Despite even getting stuck with a tie-in, he still managed to focus the story on Krakoa, which I thought, is what a really good tie-in should do. And he's also supported by beautiful skitties art. And there was just one great chase scene that I love. I don't know how to express how much I love that chase scene because it was really awesome. I give it a 3.75 goose snakes out of 5.
Everybody loves a goose snake. Okay, Harry, what did you think?
That sentence is going to be in my head for weeks now. I'm not going to. No. Good issue, honestly. Frankly, pretty good issue considering that we've been kind of lukewarm on this because it got shoved into a crossover none of us like or want in this case. The art was much better. I think there was good focus on 2 characters in particular. There's a really fun beat. This feels weirdly to me like a second arc or a story down the line that fleshes out a team member. They just kind of did it first because there's not much else they can do because they're working within the confines of King in Black. But the really important thing is we're done. We're done with King in Black. This is the last issue. No more. We can move on and we can actually figure out what this book really wants to do after 4 months. So I'm going to give it a 3.85. No more King in Blacks.
Yay.
Yay.
Fariha, what did you think?
It's a lot of good moments, but I just don't know why they're doing what they're doing in Sword. Because first of all, I'm very annoyed by the tie-in and the fact that it's another tie-in and there is no recap page, so I have no idea what's going on in other things and stuff like that. And then there were certain things they were happening with the 5, which should be an X Factor thing, but it's happening here. And then there was I don't know, it's a lot of good moments, but it just kind of disjointed and it just felt like, okay, sure, let's move on. No more King in Black. The art was really good. I really like that. To me, it was overall a solid 3 body slides out of 5.
I like the slide there. Yeah.
Slide.
Body slide.
I have to say that I'm coming in maybe just above Fariha and just below the other 2 of you, in my opinion. Because I've really debated, what is this book about? We got this great cast in the first issue, and then I really feel like we haven't been using them, and it's been hard to even understand what is Sword? Why does it exist? Why wasn't this just the X-Men King in Black miniseries, And I feel like this was the first issue where it really felt like a book, with a purpose and a thing to say about X-Men and about Krakoa and about mutants. And so it really finally clicked for me. And maybe I'm just slow. Maybe it clicked for other people at issue 1 or 2 or 3, and it just took me this long to get there. That might be the case for some of you listening. But I just felt like this was the first time that I was like, I get it. Also, I think Shitty just was on fire. I think the illustrations here were great. And I do think the action was spectacular. It just really, really worked for me in a way that I root for comics to work. I want all comics to be at least this good. So the thing I want to start with actually is the thing that frees a body slide.
I can't get over it. Can I get $1 back just because there was 2 pages of just body slide? You can't do that. The Wolverine did it with a bunch of white pages that they took money, and now there's I paid dollars for 1 page of just body slide, so I can't get over that.
Well, it's a fight and a chase scene.
Well,
right?
I want to start there, partially because we know I'm always consuming older X-Men media with the kid and just in general in this house. And hilariously, just moments before reading this, we read Cable coming back to the past, or we watched Cable coming back to the past in X-Men the animated series, which has a lot of him body sliding around as he fights. And then I read this, I'm like, what is happening? So, but here's the thing, and I now that we've heard Fariha's position, I know Tyler is more positive, so we'll start with Tyler. I think this was really inventive because it took that kind of portal action of like where physical space doesn't matter in a fight because the space is immaterial to both of the combatants. And I think it did it in an interesting way on the page because it did 9-panel grid, but it like sliced the grid in weird ways. Yeah. It wasn't just a straight up 9. Sometimes it broke through the back, sometimes to the forward, sometimes to the portal explosion. To me, like, could they get away with this every issue? No. But for a fight scene that thrilled the ever living out of me, yes, but that was how I approached it. So I want to hear what everybody's takes are, starting with Tyler. Like, how did this action come off, and what did you think about Manifold versus symbiote Cable?
It doesn't. The thing is that the action did not even start like on the 2 pages. It started like a couple of pages before, where now symbiote Cable was like asking the gooseneck to attack Manifold, and Manifold was manifesting those little
and chopping them off.
Yeah, to start killing them and or maybe teleporting them elsewhere, right? And then that particular scene, that cross scene where symbiote was like he body slide to behind him and above Manifold to try and like ambush him, and Manifold creating a new one just to run from him. So there are 2 things happening here. Manifold can talk to the universe. So the universe is telling him where Cable is coming from.
I didn't even get that.
And then Cable is a telepath, so he can tell where Manifold is trying to come out of. So there's these 2 things, competing things that is like going on. So I thought that was like really, really interesting. Like, and then like the art here is also like so good. Like, I mean, I really enjoyed it.
But I might have to raise my rating now. That was so much more than I got out of it.
Well, what I liked about that fight scene too is that, like, as Tyler, as you mentioned, just where he just kind of Cable kind of teleports above and then kind of swings down and he's gone. It has like that energy and the kind of the pace to me, almost of like a manga fight of just like 2 super fast characters that are just like flitting through space and what have you. It had like this really fun, fast energy that just like on a kinetic level was super exciting.
Fariha, what do you think? You're probably the biggest manga reader of the 4 of us. Do you get that vibe that Harry was just talking about?
Wrong,
Oh, no, absolutely. It's very kinetic, and it's very much like something that Western comic artist can learn. Just read a manga, you'll get there. Even the worst manga has like a better action scene than a lot of the comics you have. So I absolutely loved the fight scene, by the way. Like, I'm with Tyler on that. Like, it's absolutely like, fantastic. And I also I got the universe talking part. I didn't get the Cable being a telepath part. So that's something that I can listen to that. My only complaint was the body slide. Like, why you have to say it? Just don't say it. Like, just see it. Like, that's my like, that made me mad. That made me so mad. It's like, I don't know.
Such a weird word.
It just now will because of you, it will now forever make me think about, when you're doing like one of those line dances at a wedding, whatever, and it's like slide to the left. Like, now in my head, it's just like body slide.
So the thing is, and here's the thing, because I read the comics and then I was actually in a meeting, and then nonstop I was doing this.
There's a panel. There's a panel of Cable just going body slide coming out of a portal. He's just like,
exactly. And that's what that took so much out of me. It just because the word is so weird.
But it is. I guess it's like consistent. It is pretty consistent. Well, I think the thing is that I think because Peter and I are more, we read a lot of like 80s comics, right? Where they tell and show. So we are sort of like used to it. I was like, okay, this is what he's doing. Body slide by 1, body slide by 2, or whatever. And so we are so used to it. Like, it didn't register, at least for me, it didn't register as like needless. So
I don't read it as like...
Here's the thing. From now on, I want every superhero to say a word that they're doing. Like Storm is like lightning, and Wolverine's like claw, claw, claw.
Yeah.
But this raises a good point though, because the body slide, it's not his mutant power, right? It's something that he's got programmed that in the past has been connected, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, to like ship or grail making or whatever his technology. So the whole idea is that he's got to verbalize it. Like it's not like he can't just tap. He's saying to activate it, which is what makes it like funny, but also not funny because it's not the same as like Claremont being like, I will use lightning for Storm, because it actually does have a narrative purpose.
He's kind of a Pokemon, just yelling his power to use it, like running around. I will say, just speaking about the art, and you guys, I've clearly, I think, been like the most dim on King in Black. I think Shidi's design for symbiote Cable is kind of like really good. Like it's grody, but it's really specific and unique, while also being super grotesque, but it doesn't just seem like a random ass Cable, a symbiote monster. You know what I mean? Like it's got like, he's got a cloak still, but now it's like this kind of membrane, and it's kind of quietly a pretty cool design. I'm glad it's gone though. So, and
he pushed, and Gracia on colors pushed it more to pink on the accents because to tie in with the telekinetic psychic fire from his eye, and it kind of like wraps down onto the cloak instead of just going for the like red and black that everything is. Also, here's my question. It goes well with the Pokemon development of Cable. If Cable is Cable and Teen Cable is Table, is symbiote Teen Cable stable? What is our portmanteau? I just call him Table, and I expect people to like understand me. Like I'll be in conversation with somebody about comics and be like, "Well, Table was great this week."
It's like, is Peter having a stroke? What's going on over there? I like Stable.
But the thing is, like, okay, so is it just only me who thought that he looks like Quentin Quire?
Yes. Well, I've been thinking that. I haven't vocalized that, but I've been thinking this since day one. Like they are very similar visual characters, especially now with the.
Yeah, especially like the way that we were going to talk about X-Force, and then because whatever's happening, and it just kind of, they look very alike. So especially with the pink, I'm like.
Quire does own the pink brand right now. So at risk at plunging us into a lengthy discussion, I think because we're at the end of this battle, there's one other beat that I have to mention, mostly for Tyler's benefit, but I'm interested in what the two of you thought too, because I don't know if you know this beat the way that Tyler does. So Frenzy, who I love, comes down, busts herself out of her goosack and just clocks Stable, and he's like, I'm gonna kill everybody you ever loved, and she says, I've only ever loved one person, and if he felt the same way, you'd be my stepson. And it like took my breath away. So before Tyler says anything, do either of you know why she said that?
She's into Cyclops?
I assume Cyclops has a more interesting life than I realized. That was my basic read on that.
So Tyler, since we immediately group chatted each other when we came to this realization, why is this such a great moment?
Because Frenzy was married to Scott in Age of X. And then after the Age of X event, I remember Rogue and her retain their memories, but I think Peter remembered it as in like everyone has a choice whether they remember or they choose to forget Age of X.
Yeah, I thought in like Legacy 248 or 249 or something, they had like almost like a walk-in clinic of like anybody who wants to forget forgets. And Frenzy had this scene with Scott where she's like, I know you don't feel this way anymore, but it mattered to me. And Scott's like, well, I'm going to go forget, have fun. Like, and Frenzy was like, no, because it's the only time I've like ever loved anybody. And then Frenzy doesn't forget. Like it just,
Scott's Summers move.
That was such a good character beats for Scott.
And I'm embarrassed.
Is so Scott.
I've actually read Age of X. I forgot that. I guess it's been
you
like
didn't
a
read
long
what came
time.
after it. Then it won't.
Yeah, then it wouldn't register because I think there was this continuous a little bit of a beat where Frenzy was still. I mean, Frenzy is in this at this point still in love with Scott, and I think in some ways, and then I think she couldn't stand Scott and Emma being together. So I think like during Schism, she shifted over to the Jean Grey school or something like that. So like there was, it's not just a one-off thing. Like it dragged on quite a bit. And so, yeah, I mean.
Which is even more interesting because Frenzy, as we have mentioned, was originally in X Factor at the very beginning of the original X Factor series as one of Apocalypse's little underlings before he had his four horsemen. And so her origin is in conflict with Scott. Not that we want to define Frenzy by Scott, because she's actually really darn interesting on her own. But it was just such a great throwaway line. But the idea that she has to still have this feeling of beating Cable over the head and being like, and you were my stepson, you know, in this reality, that just shot through the heart for me. Yeah.
So I'm gonna open like Fariha's school of enlightening ex-ladies that just to be like, there's other sexier mutant than Cyclops.
Yeah, this is reaching like a him kind of territory where like, three people are obsessed with Scott.
Yeah, plus Logan.
And Logan.
Yeah, I mean, these are like amazing ladies, and they're into Scott.
It's totally like the person like dating like kind of the burnout from high school in your hometown, and you're like him, like. No,
it's very much like, you know, Daddy Claremont projected himself on screen.
I agree, period. The reason it still kind of works for Frenzy is because she even in the text, what is that word that Zach taught me? Diegetically, she sees that. But she's like, but if I choose to forget it because it was so basic, I will lose the feeling of love.
Basic? Oh, sorry.
You know, like it's like she literally would agree with you. I think Frenzy would be like, you're right, girl.
No. I mean, it's true though. It's like I dated some people where I'm like, like in retrospect, but you know, I wouldn't like to want to forget that because then I would forget all the mistakes I made. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Even dumpster diving has its benefits as you get older. You learn from them. That's
says the youngest person on the
as you get older, says Harry. Okay.
I'm getting my college diploma any day now, so y'all don't make fun of me.
You mean your license to drink.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to now pivot pretty hard from this scene to a different scene, which is kind of a conglomerate of a few different plot points. Mentallo came to Krakoa in his psychic tank to pick up the Five to evacuate them from Earth in case this is the end, per Brand's direction. But the Five don't really want to go with him all that much, which leads to a really interesting multi-party situation here. And we could talk about any parts of it that you want, because Hope is now in a psychic argument with Brand about if they should abandon ship when the abandoned ship hasn't even been planned, which gets back to Free and I talking about root cause analysis and like finding the thing that's actually broken. Meanwhile, in a totally different vein, WizKid is like, you're not even thinking about these gates the right way. The gates themselves are information. You don't have to go through a gate to have information. The gates themselves relay information without anybody ever going through them. And so WizKid then pretty much hacks Krakoa, which ties up all into one big knot with WizKid then hacking Mentallo's tank while Mentallo is losing the argument with Hope because Hope wants to, like, there's just a whole ball of stuff. This is the point where I'm like, that's what this book is about. But what did you think about this whole scene? What were the most interesting parts of it for you, Fariha?
So first of all, I wanted this because that stuck with me. Even though a lot of the things about this issue I keep on forgetting and I'm having to keep going back and forth, like, this happened. This is what, like, Hope Summers, she says that, but all I see from you is the same old human thinking, spycraft and mechanicians, secrets and mysteries. Who does it serve? Does she not met Emma? Like, have she never met Emma?
Hope
like,
has
she never met Emma.
Yeah.
She never met Sinister. She never met, like, you know, the, what you call that? What's his name? Oh my God, he's not paralyzed.
Shaw.
Come on, people. Shaw. Like, she hasn't met.
Oh boy, you just described the plot of Generation Hope, so I'm really excited for you to continue your X-Men reading into the 500.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, why is she like, this is like old human thinking? No, it's not. Like, that's what Mutant is all about. They're all about like, you know, mysteries, secrets, mechanicians, and all that. I mean, I don't know. I was laughing at that mostly.
I just like that scene. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just like, I loved the whole psychic battle thing because that's exquisite. And then also like the whiz kid figuring out the gate thing. I'm like, this is so good.
Competence.
Like mutant competence born, and then mutants figuring things out. Like, oh, love it.
I like that scene.
Go ahead.
Hope's just yelling at Bran, being like, yo, your plan sucks. Like, I don't want to back it. Like, you are not, it's positioning Bran very much more in this, like, not like right or wrong, but just like this flawed way. And it's kind of interesting seeing the daylight between her and Krakoa in general. And then later on seeing the kind of daylight between Magneto giving orders and her giving orders. And it's just like, I don't feel like Bran wins that argument in any way in that conversation, which is interesting because she's ostensibly our lead. And immediately it's just like, hey, this is dumb. You shouldn't be doing this.
But she also doesn't care though. She doesn't
which
care.
Which makes her interesting.
Yeah.
I think it just sets up the fact that Bran, I mean, it reiterates that Bran is not 100% backing Krakoa, or at least, not listening to the Quiet Council. She wanted to be independent. Like right from the beginning, she's like, yes, I know we are using Krakoan tech, but I'm independent, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember something like that conversation that she had with Magneto in issue 1. And I mean, what I find interesting is this, right? Is that Bran, at the very least, is thinking about redundancy and backups and having a plan. It may not be the best plan, using Mandela to upload psychics. Yeah, but at least she has a plan. She thought about it. Like I don't know if the Quiet Council thought about it. And then the other thing is interesting to see the split. Like it's pretty clear Manifold is Bran, is Bran's person, whereas Frenzy is more Krakoan. So that there is a split in terms of like the sword cast. And I thought like, is a good seed right now, because like going forward, we probably will see more conflict, I mean, whenever Bran wanted to do something that is not 100% to Krakoa's advantage, Frenzy might step in and say like, hey, why are we doing this? What is this for?
Also, not to mention that within this issue, there's like 2 leaders. There's a Bran giving orders, and there's also Magneto giving orders. And there is like the most Krakoan person, Magneto, and the least Krakoan person, that is Bran. So there's like a lot of that going to happen as well.
Oh,
but
so much stuff in there.
One thing I do want to mention though is like, all the people among the 5, Eva Bell, she just decided to just sit down. And then the rest are just kind of hanging out. It's a Hope is the only one who's like, you moved us from. But the rest of them are like just sitting there and chilling.
God, I'm seeing a goose snake coming out behind.
Goose snake day. I don't know.
So there's so much in there, and I really could get stuck on this beat for a long time, so I want to try to move through it quickly, and stop me if I'm getting in a rut. I really think it's interesting that Hope is expressing opinions on the behalf of the 5. We've seen hints of this in the other books, especially in the data pages, where the 5 is like, we think we shouldn't have to mess with Quentin on every resurrection, or we think this should be in our purview. And then the answer is like, no, that's X-Force, or that's X-Factor. And I think that it's this really subtle theme across all the books about that the 5 are starting to have their own opinions that are different than Quiet Council opinions, right? But then layer onto that Cable is the villain here. Hope is his daughter, but what is the relationship between Hope and Team Cable? We haven't really seen a ton of that. So that's an aspect. And then we also get the aspect that these are like 3rd and 4th generation leaders of mutants arguing about mutants, which to me is really interesting, right? Like Hope was, begat by Cable, who's from Jean, and Cyclops, who are from Xavier. So Hope is a level 4. Brand, although we still don't know her parentage, which we didn't, introduce big questions about, kind of was brought in via sword and a connection, however tenuous, to Nick Fury, but she also was in a relationship with Beast. These are people who are not the normal leaders, and they're getting to participate in this debate and have as much control as like a Magneto. And that's just a really fascinating beat to me. And that really made me click as to like, this is kind of what Sword is about. That like, even this evolved version of the Quiet Council is small to some people who want to push even further. Sword might wind up being our most radical book politically in terms of Krakoa. So also, I wanted to just point out, I love that dance party scene with the five. Like, if we're going to be stuck in this cave anyway, this kid, why don't you DJ? And Proteus is rocking out. So it just was really cute. But I think
the most Al Ewing moment is just, we'll just do a dance party.
So the thing is, do you think Hope is leader of the five? Who is the leader of the five?
100%.
I think Hope. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So is it just naturally because the other four are whatever? Or is it just, do you think?
Well, I mean, it cannot be Egg because
his egg.
Yeah.
That's mean. The egg.
Yeah. I mean, the two most senior person here is either Hope or Proteus, but Proteus has never been on a team before. So
he's also pink and intense.
Yeah.
Potentially insane.
Well, and also Hope was the mutant messiah. I mean, especially to that younger generation, not so much Proteus, but certainly to Eva Bell and Egg who are post-Hope, right? She created the ability for them to be a thing. And Elixir, who was there at the time, and she saved all of the mutant race.
Yeah.
She still means something to them. And I think that that's a really good beat to play, to watch them kind of be a little bit differential, especially when we get a scene where they all voice their opinion and then Hope goes last and they're like, yes, Hope. And I think that hopefully that's going to play out in the longer term. Because I just think it's a really interesting, you can't take away that facet of Hope. And I just hope that the writers are clever enough to lean into it a little bit. I want to move go ahead.
No, what I mean is in this case, we see Hope stepping up more or less as the leader here, and giving her opinion, and then we see her, the younger version of her dad voicing his lack of confidence, which is not the first time now. I think he voiced it after that fight with what was that, with Bay? Yeah, after the fight with was it Bay?
Yeah.
With Bay.
Where it's almost like he has to go and learn that from her because he's not at a stage of life where he has that confidence that he gave to Hope yet. Yeah.
I mean, and that kind of worried me because I'm afraid that this is where young Cable exit and the old Cable comes back. Because I it is no surprise. I think all four of us is starting to enjoy this young Cable because it's really written well in his own book. And so it'll be a sad thing when the series ends and he leaves. Yeah, and the old Cable comes back. So
if that's what happens.
Yeah, if that's what happens.
Oh, no.
Don't get down on it yet. Wow, they turned us around on table. Amazing. So
they really did.
Here's my last topic for us. Starts with a comment on art. There's this beautiful full page of Magneto having his Alas Poor Yorick moment with Fabian Cortez's skull, which A, is just delicious. But B, the cape action here is Silva quality cape action, but it has Shitty's animated faces. Silva has that very kind of stony way that he does faces, even in kind of comedic moments, but Shitty almost makes it look like it's going to jump right out of the page like it's a Miyazaki animation or something. At least to me, that's what I get when he's really on point. And if I were to go and buy a page of art and frame it, it would be Magneto, Alas Poor Yorking, Cortez's skull. But this begets an interesting beat because Magneto isn't advertised as a main cast member of this book, but this whole ending has to do with Magneto making some decisions. He sends a memo. He seems like he has really come to believe something new here, but a lot of it is redacted. So what do you think about this? What is this new thing that he has decided? What is this move that he's making? And why is the Quiet Council only going to have 8 members when he goes to them for quorum? Tyler?
I mean, the obvious things here is they mentioned is the second law, right? So the second law of Krakoa is murder no man. So
there were no men even in this plot, though, right? It's just symbiotes and table. So why did Magneto go there?
Because of Fabian in I think 2 issues ago, where he was trying to propose something to Magneto. When they were fighting it. So I think there's something here that needs to be said, I think. I think they are going to have a qualifier of murder no man like, you know. And yeah, I mean, I don't know why there are 8, because I can only name 2 that are missing, which is Apocalypse and Jean. So I don't know, maybe
Shaw's still there. He's still seated.
Yeah, he's still seated.
He just votes however Kate wants him to.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, but he's in they're in Madripoor unveiling the statue.
Well, we don't know if they're gone.
Well, we don't know the timing of these things, right? So
wait, that's why it's redacted, so it's easy to say tell them. It's like, you know, that's why they redacted it, because what other reason they have to redact that?
The other thing would be Storm might be away, because we know that Storm is leaving Marauders. We don't know where she's leaving. So the other thing would be like Storm is gone. So there'll be 3 out.
Way off X.
3 gone, and then last one, I don't know who is the last one.
I feel like this has got to be almost go on, sorry.
No, I said maybe it's Sinister, who is still in Murder World.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They're all over the place right now. Actually, that's kind of it'd be funny. They just note every single person
in X-Force, and also is going to be starting the X-Men. Nightcrawler's starting his church. I mean, we're down just to the villainous group at this point, and even as you pointed out, not there. Harry, what did you think about this ending?
I feel like it's almost got to be like a bait and switch, where it's like it's signaling too hard that Magneto's going to like allow killing of humans with Cortez. It almost I could still see it going that way, but it almost feels like it's just too obvious to do that, and something else is going to happen where maybe Magneto turns on Cortez or something. But I don't feel like, and even like Xavier writes in like little margins of the data page, like, hey, don't do this. Like, it seems like they're really shading it to seem like, oh, Magneto's going to break bad in a way finally, but like I just don't see that happening. But I guess we'll find out.
We know Fariha is a card-carrying member of the Brotherhood of Mutants, as led by Magneto. What did you think about your man's final moments here?
Your boy.
Your boy.
First of all, I was like, his dialogues have becoming more and more Shakespearean, or more and more like so proper. It's like, oh, young man, it took your father away too, so don't feel upset. So I kind of like this like new men. He's kind of really reeling on the very extremist, like nationalist side of mutant thing, which is I think his thing. But I feel like if he gonna go back on the whole murder no mutant and murder no man thing, I feel like that's also a slipping again to his old form, and that's just going to be a little awkward.
Well, I mean,
but I don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't know whether that's what they're going for, but but the thing, whatever he decides, I will still follow him.
No, but the thing is also, like we saw in Marauders, right? The law causes problem because the law creates enemies for Krakoa. Like that's how the Reavers were formed, right? So so there has to be, I think the qualifiers here is really in the sense of protecting Krakoa. So let's say I mean, when they say kill murder no man, I think they forgot the fact that, like, what if we are at war with humans? I mean, are we allowed to kill them at war? Because then we are no longer talking about just murdering someone. So I don't know if the qualifier is going to be something like that.
So my
thing is though, it's No, what I'm saying that my thing is that I just don't know what triggered him. That's what I just don't understand. Like, what's triggering him to bring this? That's
why I feel like it's not
Peter
legit.
May have the answer.
I read it really differently than you guys did. So
tell us.
Body slide.
Just wait for that body slide. Just wait for that full musical episode. So I read it as, why no man? This was an extraterrestrial threat. It already took them out. Why are we playing this game as if it's only about humans versus mutants? And does murder no man mean only don't murder other humans that are not mutants? What about symbiotes? What about Shar? What about snarks? Especially as combined with the eyes only page that came after it. The way that I read it was like, yeah, there's this thing about flat scans, and Cortez said that to Magneto in the first issue, but I just didn't read it as him looking at the skull and being like, oh, Cortez was right. Because Magneto's a little bit deeper than that, I think, at this point in his career.
Yeah.
I think I really read it as like, Cortez understands that this is broader, but he doesn't have the vision that I do to see how much broader. So I really think it's about universal scale and needing to change the rules to speak to that.
I think you're right. I'm gonna be honest. I'm putting the money down. I think that's got to be it, right? I don't.
And it would be cool, right? Is that not?
It would be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool.
Rhea?
It would be, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. I thought that was kind of anyway. Who cares? Yeah, it's gonna be revealed. I think that most of the things like it's being set up as like there's two people who are giving direction to the same team, and that will come to head.
I think it's that also for sure. I think that's definitely a part of it. Even if, like,
but I don't know. I mean, we'll see how that goes.
We will. Well, folks, I think that is it for our conversation on sword number 4.
Are we going to talk about the mole?
No.
Oh, who's the mole? Is it
Do you think Tyler? Do you think there's new news on the mole based on this issue?
Yeah, the very last eyes-only deep secret data page.
You think that's saying the mole is Vola's vote because Vote's name is unredacted?
I mean, I don't know, but I thought maybe. I mean, there's also this tag says burning heart. Like, does it mean anything to anyone?
Is that the Krakoa text, or is that the the sub? Oh,
it's like the side, the bottom on the lower right.
No,
I mean, I just wanted to ask the question.
Could be the name of the mission, like if it has to do with Snark War and the soul is in there, which is Earth's sun, and we all know that the Master Mold was orbiting the sun, and here we have Manifold using the power of the sun, which Magneto absolutely witnessed, and harnessing that in a weaponized way, and Cortez was killed alongside Sunfire. I definitely think there's some wheels turning in Ewing's head here. Okay.
That's all I wanted to ask.
All right. So that is actually all that we have to say about Sword issue number 4. But we want to leave you, dear readers and listeners, with these 2 questions. 1, Magneto, what has he decided in that moment with the skull and in his subsequent memo? What do you think? 2, was there any significance to Vote's name being unredacted? Does it mean she's the mole? Does it mean something else? We want to know what you thought about that. If you are looking for other discussions of what's going on in the world of X this week, just look elsewhere on the channel because we cover them in separate videos. But until we see you again, the whole reason we get together and do this, and I think was really in evidence in this issue, was why, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. And it is so much better reading this issue. I got so much from everybody's takes on it. And I hope that you all listening felt the same way. So until we get to talk to you next time, from the behalf of myself, Fariha, Tyler, and Harry, thank you so much and be well.
Bye.